Most people think saving money is just about discipline. Cut the coffee, skip the takeout, stash what's left. But that's not the real story. Because around $10,000, something shifts. Your mindset changes, your stress levels change, and your financial future starts to look completely different. $10,000 isn't just a number in your bank app. It's a turning point. On one side is worry. On the other side is breathing room. So why does so much start to change after 10K? Let's break it down. For most Americans, money feels fragile. The Federal Reserve reports that 37% of adults can't cover a $400 emergency without borrowing. The median emergency fund is only $600. That means most families are one unexpected bill away from stress. But $10,000 changes that equation. That's 25 times the size of a $400 crisis. At that level, you can take a hit and keep moving. You stop living in defense mode. You start living in control mode. When your car breaks, it's inconvenient, not devastating. If you lose your job, you have time to plan, not panic. If your laptop dies, you replace it instead of reaching for the credit card. That's what 10K often buys, a sense of stability.
Here's the hidden truth. Money changes your psychology before it changes your lifestyle. When you have no cushion, your brain lives in survival mode. Psychologists call it the scarcity mindset. Every dollar feels critical. You think in short-term bursts. It's hard to plan ahead when every problem feels urgent. But once you hit around 10K, that scarcity fog starts to clear. You get what researchers call cognitive slack. You stop reacting to every crisis. You start thinking strategically again. That's the first big shift, the mental one. The second shift is financial mechanics, because money starts doing a different job after 10K. Below that point, every dollar is survival fuel. It covers rent, groceries, emergencies. Above that point, money becomes capital. It can start earning for you instead of just sitting still. But there's a catch. Keeping 10K in a regular savings account sounds safe, but inflation quietly eats at it. If inflation runs at 2 to 3% a year and your savings account pays less than 1%, you're losing around $150 to $200 in purchasing power annually. It's not a crisis, but it's a wake-up call. When you see that, something clicks. You realize that real security isn't about hoarding dollars, it's about preserving value. That's when most people start learning to invest through index funds, ETFs, or high-yield accounts. That's when money shifts from protection to progress.
Let's look at what that means long-term. If you invested 10K in the S&P 500 back in 2000, you'd have around $38,000 today. That's the difference time and compounding make. Sitting on cash feels safe, but it can quietly cost tens of thousands over decades. So hitting 10K is when the game changes. Before that, you're playing not to lose. After that, you can finally play to win. But there's a deeper benefit people don't expect. It's not just about returns. It's about leverage. Let's say you're stuck in a job that drains you. You'd like to quit or negotiate better pay, but bills keep you frozen. That's financial pressure talking. Now imagine you've got 10K in your account. That's a few months of expenses covered. Suddenly, you have options. You can take your time finding a better role. You can walk away from bad deals instead of saying yes out of fear. Negotiation experts at Harvard call this a BATNA, your best alternative to a negotiated agreement. It means having the power to walk away. Research shows people with strong alternatives, like cash savings, are 3 times more likely to make the first offer in a negotiation. And that first offer often sets the range for the final deal. So 10K doesn't just make you safer, it can make you stronger.
It also changes how you see money itself. Behavioral economists talk about mental accounting. We treat earned money differently from found money. That's why most lottery winners go broke, but savers don't. Building 10K through consistent saving builds what psychologists call effort-linked ownership. It's money you fought for, and you treat it with respect. You don't waste it because you remember what it took to build. That discipline becomes identity. Once you've saved 10K, you've proven you can do hard things over time. That's the same skill that builds 100K later. Now let's talk about the emotional payoff. In a Vanguard study of more than 12,000 people, those with emergency savings reported 21% higher financial well-being than those without. That's not just a statistic, it's a feeling. They slept better. They argued less about money. They felt more in control at work and at home. When you're not waking up wondering how to cover next month's bills, your brain finally relaxes. You think clearer, you make better choices, and confidence grows. That's the real dividend of saving. It's psychological peace. Now zoom out to the bigger picture. Why is this milestone so powerful? Because for many families, 10K is roughly the halfway point to full stability. Financial planners often recommend 3 to 6 months of expenses saved. For a typical U.S. household, that's around $15,000 to $30,000. So hitting 10K means you're past the hardest part of the climb.
And in today's economy, that milestone matters even more. Inflation has cooled, but costs haven't gone back down. Rents, food, and gas keep pushing budgets tight. 42% of Americans still have no emergency fund, according to Empower's 2025 report, and 1/3 have more credit card debt than savings. So crossing 10K doesn't just change your personal finances, it puts you ahead of the national average. There's also a hidden ripple effect. People with savings start taking smarter risks. They invest, they move cities, they start businesses. Why? Because they have a safety net. Studies from the National Bureau of Economic Research show that even modest liquidity increases the odds of entrepreneurship. And U.S. Census data confirms that new business founders typically had personal savings to get started. That 10K covers licenses, startup costs, or initial inventory. It's the difference between an idea and execution. Money doesn't automatically make people bold, but it does make boldness safer. Now let's look at the math behind timing. This is where people either win big or miss out. If you invest 10K a year for 40 years at a 7% return, you'll end up with over $2 million. But if you wait 20 years to start, you'd need to invest about $49,000 a year to catch up. That's almost 5 times more. The takeaway? Time is the multiplier. Money is just the ingredient. So reaching your first 10K isn't about being rich. It's about getting in the game early enough for time to work its magic.
Let's be clear, though, not everyone experiences the same turning point. If you have a high income, your version of enough might be higher. If you live on very little, you might feel the benefits at 2K or 5K. The exact number isn't sacred. It's what it represents, a shift from panic to possibility. Still, the data pattern is consistent. Households with emergency funds recover from financial shocks 25 to 30% faster. They default less, borrow less, and stress less. And they report better mental health and focus at work. That's why economists call savings a form of personal infrastructure. It doesn't just protect you, it lets you perform at your best. So how do you reach that 10K? First, make it automatic. Set up a recurring transfer to savings every payday before you even see the money. Behavioral research shows automatic saving increases results by about 16%. Out of sight, out of temptation. Second, define your why. You're not saving for numbers on a screen. You're saving for peace of mind. You're buying back calm. And third, celebrate small wins. Your first 1K matters. Your first 5K matters. Every milestone is proof that your habits are working. The key is consistency, not speed. It's not about earning more overnight. It's about earning your future, one deposit at a time. Now, here's the paradox. Once you finally have savings, you'll start feeling impatient again. You'll realize cash sitting still is quietly losing ground to inflation. And that's actually a good sign. It means your mindset has upgraded. You're no longer scared to use money, you're thinking about how to make it grow. That's the natural next step. Keep your emergency fund liquid, but let any extra dollars start compounding. That's how people move from stability to wealth over time. Now let's talk about what life feels like after you reach that goal. You stop checking your account in panic. You stop flinching every time an unexpected bill arrives. You stop saying, I can't afford it, and start asking, is this worth it? That shift sounds small, but it changes how you move through the world. You hold yourself differently. You ask better questions. You sleep better. You start to experience what psychologists call financial autonomy, the feeling that money decisions are choices, not reactions. That's freedom on a small but powerful scale. Now, a quick reality check. 10K won't protect you from every storm. A major medical event or long unemployment stretch can still hurt, but it can turn chaos into inconvenience instead of catastrophe. It gives you time, and time is priceless. Even if inflation trims a little or an emergency cuts it in half, the habit remains. And habits rebuild faster than luck ever will. That's why the real win isn't just the dollars, it's who you became while saving them. So, what does this all really mean? Before 10K, many people feel like money calls the shots. After 10K, they often feel more prepared to call their own. It's not magic and it's not guaranteed. It's a sign that financial pressure is easing and clarity is starting to take its place. Money rarely transforms who you are overnight. What it does do is widen your choices. For many people, 10K is the point where options begin to feel real. It makes challenges less scary and decisions less rushed. It's not a miracle number, but it's a meaningful one. If you build the habit once, you can build it again. So aim for that first cushion, knowing it's a step, not a finish line. Because freedom doesn't start with millions. It starts with a little space to breathe. And if this video gave you something valuable, tap like so more people can find it. Subscribe if you want more simple conversations about money and business. And drop a comment below. What's the one thing you do first after hitting your 10K goal?